Hey everybody, welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are live right here in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios on this Monday, October the 7th. And we are glad to be here. Had a great weekend, kind of a lazy weekend, but stayed up and watched the Red Raiders beat the Arizona Wildcats. All you football fans out there, you guys that stayed up and watched that game, that was great. That was great for the Red Raiders. It was a good win. Those guys are 5-1 right now. You remember a couple weekends ago, everybody was just griping, like people were losing their minds about the Red Raiders, about what was going on with them, right? Abilene Christian almost beat us, and then we didn't do too good against Washington State, and everybody was wanting to just what are we going to do about all this, right? Bunch of big fuss. And then we just straightened out things and stayed with it and been playing good. We got some good players, and our players have been playing good, and now they're 5-1. Got an off week this week, a bye week. It's perfect timing to go into a bye week. Go into a bye week with a win, and then you get ready for the Baylor Bears here in 2 weeks, and that's it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. It's good. It's that game on Saturday night. It was great from a standpoint of life. I told one of the guys this morning, I said, that's exactly the way life is. Sometimes life doesn't go exactly like you think. It's like there's just some things out there sometimes that happen, and you get out to a good start, and you think you got everything under control, and then you come out for the second half, and then things aren't going exactly like you think, and it's just like, man, everybody starts getting fussy. And you know what you got to do on those days? You just got to play through it. You just got to play the next play. You just go out there and, the three superstars on the field on Saturday night had 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and another fumble. The 3 guys. Their superstar wide receiver fumbled the ball, which one of our linebackers made an outstanding play, made a play, and caused a fumble. We recovered it. We got the ball back, scored a touchdown. It was just perfect. I jumped out of my chair. I was so excited. That was probably about 1:40 in the morning. And I was texting my friend from Florida because he's a Canes guy, Miami Hurricane guy. And so I texted him because Miami won. They flew all the way to California from Miami to from Berkeley, California. It's like 3,021 miles or something, all the way from Miami to California. And they drove all the way, or flew all the way out there. Their equipment bus had to leave, their whatever they call that thing, their equipment truck had to leave it on Monday to get all the way out there. And those guys played all the way down to the last snap, and then all of a sudden Miami gets ahead of them and wins the game. And so I sent my friend a text, and it would have been 2:30 in the morning in Miami, and Delray Beach is where he's from, and he was watching the game. He was like, "Man, I'm getting too old for this." And I was like, "Yeah, we gotta recover an onside kick." And then sure enough, we did, and then that was the game. So it was just, I thought it was great. I thought it was, man, it's like things are going your way, and then all of a sudden things aren't going your way. What are you going to do about it? What you talk about a life lesson. You talk about life, right? What are you going to do about it when you fumble? Taj, our superstar All-American running back, like he's one of the best players we've ever had in the history of our school, and he fumbled the ball twice in the third quarter last night. And so it was just yeah, there we go. And so it was just it was like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah. Sometimes your day just doesn't go fabulous, right? And now let me just say this to all you guys that are out there. So if you're out there and you're a Texas Tech fan, or you're a Miami fan, and you stayed up till 2:30 in the morning to watch your team, or you're a Texas Tech fan and you stayed up till I think it's 1:58 or something like that when I finally got the game over or whatever. Today you might be dragging it a little bit. It's totally normal. It's totally normal for you to be stiff. It's totally normal for you to be tired. It's totally normal for you to have uh, a tough Monday. It's almost over. We only got a few hours left of this Monday. You can just get um, back to normal, and then everything will be all right. So we just need some sleep. We need to get back into it. Tomorrow, everything's going to be better. So these long weekends like that. Now, some of you guys, I know there's a few of you, probably not very many, but there's a couple of you out there that's not football fans, and you probably don't even know what I'm talking about, and you didn't even pay attention to any of that anyway. So that's good. You're probably all rested up and having a fantastic Monday. So if you are, that's good for you. And if you're like some of us football fans, you might be a little tired. And then I think we got the Kansas City Chiefs on tonight. So I'm pretty sure that's right. Let me make sure. The Chiefs are playing, and that's pretty cool. So we'll get to, if I can get my, I think it's the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Saints. Yeah, tonight at 7:15. So, hey, that's perfect. We had a Friday night game. I think it was TCU and Houston. The Cougars just kicked the dog out of the Frogs, and then Saturday night we had the Red Raiders, and Sunday night we had the Cowboys and the Steelers, and then tonight we got the Chiefs and the Saints. Man, if you are a football fan, this is lining up to be an awesome weekend for you. And I'm sure Patrick Mahomes won't let us down. He hardly ever does. So he'll be ready to go tonight, and it'll be cool. So, but you know what we did do, and you'd be proud of me. We got up on Sunday and we went to church. I don't think that, sleep is super important. I did take a nap on Saturday afternoon so I could kind of get ready for that. But sleep is super important. And then we went to church on Sunday. So that's what we do on Mondays around here. We take health to church. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to get into this. We're on the third week of the Blessing Avalanche. And so we're going to get into this tonight and see if we can learn something from the scriptures and from church. For you guys that don't know, on Monday nights, we take the sermon from yesterday at Hillside Baptist, or not Baptist, Hillside Church. They're not Baptist, they're non-denominational. So we take the sermon that those guys put together, and we bring it to you on the radio, and we apply it to health. That's my mission. I'm not trying to preach. I'm trying to take this lesson that we learned that I think is super important that we should be doing, and we should be able to take this lesson, that we learned yesterday and apply it to church. To our lives, right? And that's what we're going to try to do tonight. We're going to try to apply it to our lives. And there's a couple of really good points in here that I think are very legitimate. And I'm going to see if I can find this right quick, because they started yesterday with a video of an avalanche. And I don't know if I can find exactly the same. Yeah, there it is right there. So I don't know. We're going to try this. This is the first time I've really gotten video on here. I don't know what the sound. I don't know what the sound is going to say. And I don't even know. I don't think you guys on the radio are going to be able to hear it. But if the sound on the YouTube is inappropriate, you're going to have to forgive me, because I don't know exactly what this is going to say. So we're going to try it anyway and just see what it says. But I think this is the one we watched. Such a great. So boy is filming an avalanche that comes at it. And the point is that once this thing starts, man, there's nothing you can do about it. Like it just starts coming down on you. He's got a film. For you guys on the radio, what we're watching is an avalanche. Just go to YouTube and go to Avalanche. And it was like, oh my gosh, and here it comes.
Oh God.
And it's just like he's just standing there filming that whole thing, and then it just comes and it just covers it. It was like, wow. It was really quite the experience yesterday in church to watch that, because they showed that. You guys on the radio, just go to YouTube, just search Avalanche. It was one of the very first ones. It's just an empty mountain, and then it's just there's snow is way up at the top, and then it just starts coming down on you, and it just covers you. And it was such a great illustration. I thought the pastor yesterday did such a good job of illustrating that there's nothing you can do about it, basically. I mean, you can't stop it. Once the avalanche starts, you can't stop it. And if you're in its way, you're just going to get covered up. Like there's nothing, there's no control. There's no control whatsoever. You're just in the way of it. And the message was the message is Ephesians 1, chapter 3 is where it all starts. And you get into Ephesians 1, chapter 3. Sorry, I got a kamikaze fly that's killing me up here today. This is we said it for the last 3 weeks in a row, but this is the longest sentence. I think it's 200 words. And I think what they said this weekend was it's the longest sentence in recorded formal literature or something like that. I don't know, but it's a super long sentence. Praise be to God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us in the heavenly realms with every spiritual blessing in Christ. For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy, and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us to be adopted as his sons through Jesus Christ, in accordance with his pleasure and will, to the praise of his glorious grace, which he has freely given us in the ones he loves. In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins, in accordance with the riches of God's grace, and the lavishes on us with the wisdom and understanding. And he made known to us the mystery of his will, according to his good pleasure, which he purposed in Christ to put into effect when the time will have reached their fulfillment, to bring all things in heaven and earth together under one head, even Christ. In him we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of his will, in order that we, who are the first to hope in Christ, might be for the praise of his glory. And you also were included in Christ when you heard the word of truth and the gospel of your salvation. Having believed, you were marked in him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit, who is a deposit guaranteeing our inheritance into the redemption of those who are God's possession, to the praise of his glory. And that is one sentence in the original text. And it's just an avalanche. It's just an avalanche of blessing on us, and a spiritual blessing, not a physical blessing, right? But I was thinking about that, and because the physical things go away, the spiritual things don't go away. And there's so many different models that we could think about when that comes to our health. It's the same way that I see innate intelligence. And it's the same way that I see the blessings of health. And it's the same way that I see the blessings of the principles of health. You just can't avoid them. If as a human being, we are blessed with innate intelligence. We are blessed with this concept of putting a cell in an environment that's congruent with health. We're blessed with there's no controlling it. You can't make the cell malfunction if you put it in an environment that's congruent with health. You don't have a choice. It's like an avalanche. It's like an avalanche of health. You almost the only way you can create chronic disease is to put the cell in an environment that's incongruent with health. You lose the avalanche. Like you can't stop the avalanche, but you can move yourself away from the avalanche. That video that we just watched, and we watched the guy stand there with the phone, and he just watched that whole avalanche come down. He didn't have to stay right there. He could have seen that thing started way up there at the top, and then he could have just started bolting in one direction, one side or the other, and he probably would have got himself clear by the time that thing came all the way down the mountain. He had time to run. He had time to move himself away from the blessing avalanche. In that case, it was an actual avalanche, right? There was time enough to move away. There's a way that we can, but if we don't put ourselves outside of that environment, we can hardly do anything about it but be healthy. And this week we're going to get into the blue zones. I spent the weekend watching those blue zone shows and making notes. And so that's what we're going to do tomorrow night. Is we're going to start with watching those blue zones and talking about the blue zones and watching what people do to stay healthy over a lifetime. And it's like we have a blessing on us. It really is a blessing. It's like, wow, you mean to tell me that if I just do healthy things, if I just do the things that I'm supposed to do to keep myself healthy, like there's just going to be an overall blessing on me. It's just made that way, right? And I think it's made that way. Now, the difference between the spiritual blessing and the physical blessing is that the physical blessing is going to go away. And he said he used the temple of Artemis. You guys understand that the temple of Artemis is, and let me see if I can find a picture of that. It was quite an amazing. It's at Ephesus. It was quite an amazing picture. The temple. This temple here was. I don't know how long he said it took to make it, but it was quite an amazing thing. And I've had this experience before. I've had this thought in a couple of different levels, and I've had this. When I go to Roswell from Lubbock, I'll go through Brownfield, and a lot of times I'll cut through the back way of Brownfield. I won't stay on the main highway and go down to the stoplights and then make the turn and then hit the Roswell Highway. I'll come from Lubbock and then I'll make a turn and kind of come around the back. I turn there by the chiropractic office, which is kind of funny. But and then I kind of come around the back, and there's a corner somewhere where there used to be a grocery store, and all that's left of it is the sign out front, like the poles and then part of the sign. And the old concrete slab is kind of there, but it's kind of dirt now, and there's a bunch of like weeds grown up. And you can see the whole thing where it used to be a grocery store, but there's nothing left of the store. But there is the sign. And I just think about that sometimes, because I think about how excited that guy was, or gal, whoever owned the store, how excited they were on that day that they hung that sign up. You know, however many years ago that was. And I don't know the history of the store, but I think about that. I was like, you know what? Like, there was a time, some time ago, 50, 60 years ago, I don't know when they built that store, but 50, let's say 50 years ago, probably was longer than that. but let's just say 50 years ago. 50 years ago, they built that store, and it was like, they must have been excited the day they brought the sign out there. They had to have some sort of crane or something to put that thing up, and whoever it was, the owners of the deal were probably all happy with their, they're like, man, we got our sign today. It was like a really big deal for them, right? It was a big deal. And 50 years later, there's nothing there. There's nothing. It just goes away. There's just like, wow. And I've driven past that, and I've thought to myself, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing with our lives? What is the whole point of this whole thing? And what is the point of us living? And how important do we make some things that just go to rubble? And that's the picture right there of what it used to be. And let me see if I can find this is a picture of what it is today. So this temple of Artemis went from that to that. Like, that's all that's left of it. Like, it used to be like this, I think he said it was 400 foot long and 200 foot wide and 30 to 60 feet high. The pillars, I think he wanted to say they were 30 to 60 feet. I don't remember what he said, 30 or 60 feet tall. And then now, today, what is it? It's just rubble. They actually have one of those pillars in the Met in New York City at the museum there in New York City. And they have that, and it's like, at the day when they built that thing, they thought that was the greatest thing ever. And what they did was, it was for the goddess Diana. And they would come to the temple, and they would pray to the goddess Diana, and they would bring their coins, and they would pay for the blessings that they were going to get. And they would pay, and I guess the Romans were in charge of all that, and they would pay for their blessings, and then they would pray to this goddess of Diana that was supposed to take care of them. They'd come to the temple and pay a pretty penny, and she would take care of them. I wrote in my notes right here, it said it reminded me of Las Vegas. The same kind of deal, right? Like, you go to those amazing hotels in Las Vegas, and you pay that pretty penny, and you think that you get some sort of, like, you're getting some sort of care or covering or blessing or something. And it was kind of the point of that was putting our faith in the cunning and craftiness of men. You hear me say that a lot on the show. And in health, it happens every day. Every single day, there's some sort of cunning and craftiness of men that you pay for, and they tell you that there's some sort of health thing, right? They tell you that, hey, if you just buy this machine, or you just do this thing, or that you're going to end up with some sort of health. You're just going to end up with health and longevity. And I just wonder how many of those machines just go away. Like, what was the machine when I was born in 1970? What was the machine in 1975? What was the thing in 1980? I remember the Nautilus came through. Y'all remember that? That was a thing. And that wasn't necessarily a scheme. It was just a thing that came through. And then I remember my neighbor down the road, his mom bought one of those vibration machines that had a belt on it. And you put the belt around your waist, and then you turn the vibration machine on, and it's supposed to, like, burn all your fat off of you. Yeah. And so I imagine she never got on that thing while we were there. We got on it a few times, but it was just kind of like, wow. That's an interesting thing right there. Like, it's just a thing, right? It says, I just was sitting there in church yesterday, and I was watching him put up these pictures, and I was watching all the destruction that came to that temple, and I was just thinking about how it must have let those people down. At some point, a lot of people died before they realized it was not going to work out for them. But at some point, there was a transition where the new building was still there, but the transition to the new powers that be started to wear on it. And I'm sure there was some sort of war, battle, or something that started to destroy it. And then the people must have been like, man, I really thought that if I put my trust into this, that I would end up with something that worked out better for me. And I tell you, that's my number one, honest to truth, to goodness. It's my number one scariest thing in what I do for a living. Like, I don't want my people to be at the end of the road, and they didn't live a life of health. Like, if I don't want to be another one of those men that come up with some crafty idea called chiropractic. I don't want to be that guy that just makes up this story about chiropractic and thinking that I'm making it up and it's actually right, and then I get to the end and it's not. I have actually, I don't think. Dang, we come to a break. I don't think I've actually gone a single year in the 20 years that I've been a chiropractor not concerned about that issue. I want that issue to be solid. I want that, it's called the rock for a reason. I want it to be solid and healthy. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the ways that we can get some assurance about some of the things that we're doing for health. So you guys stick around with us. Sorry, sometimes I get to talking and I don't pay attention to that break, and then all of a sudden my music comes on really loud in my ear. And it's kind of hard sometimes, but uh, those are interesting things. And while we're on the break, I'm going to try to find out, because I want to use. I watched a deal last week on the DuPonts for DuPont paints and uh, the chemical company, and I want to see if we could play a little bit of that. Let me look up. So let me look up this real quick about. Because I watched last week a documentary on the DuPonts, and I thought to myself, I wanted to show this. Let me see if I can cue it up. Just give me, yeah, there it is right there. Yeah, it was right here. Yeah, I want to play this. I want to play this little clip for us it's from biography. I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for this. I'm gonna, but I want to try. I just want to play this little clip, and because I think it's really cool about, and maybe you guys can hear it, um, but it's really cool about what we're going to talk about when we get to the heir of the kingdom, because I think that's a big deal, and I think it's a big deal in health too, and that's kind of where it. Hey everybody, this is Jason Clemmons. We're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We're taking health to church tonight, and we are talking about the blessing avalanche and what happens about when you put yourself in an environment that's congruent with health. What happens to you, and how you start to produce health. And sometimes we don't talk about it enough, and sometimes we get schemed. And so I sure don't want to be one of those people that's a schemer. I want to make sure that what we're doing here at the Rock Health and Wellness Center is solid. That's why we call it the Rock Health and Wellness Center, because it's the foundational premise of health. It's going to be built on foundational premises. That's what we're going to do here. And and so, but as we were going through this yesterday, um, he read that whole passage and everything, and he was showing us that the temple of Artemis and the goddess Diana, and and then he showed us the old pictures and the current pictures, and then he read Ephesians 2, and it was 2:2, and I'll read it right quick. Um, It says, "As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sin, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of the world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our sinful nature and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature objects of wrath." So I'll go back to 2:2, "in which you used to live when you followed the ways of the world and the rulers of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient." The, the ways of the world, when it comes to health and wellness, is detrimental to our health, to our health. The ways of the world will lead to a quick death. The ways of the world are based on greed and ignorance, as far as I can tell. And 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 it's not necessarily malevolent. It's I'm not saying that every person that's in a business that causes that sells drugs like Starbucks, like Brahms, like you could go through every single one of those things. Hershey's, that we were watching the Hershey bar. I'm not saying that all those people that are in that business are out to kill people and make people's lives bad. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that they're just operating within the world, right? They're just operating within the world, and maybe there's supposed to be some discernment, because I really was blown away last week by watching that Hershey documentary, and it's the same one. It's on biography, and you could go to YouTube and this one I put in DuPont family documentary because I watched it right after I watched the Hershey one. But Mr. Hershey, on all accounts, as far as I could tell, was a really good man. He was a really caring individual, and he really cared about a lot of people. And so, what do you do with that? And maybe you guys that are a little older than I am, maybe you have a better wisdom to understand it. I don't quite know how to reconcile it. Um, he had $60 million in 1920. We're talking about Mr. Hershey, but he built houses for people and families, and he built hotels. I mean, banks, and he built hospitals, and he built schools, and to make people's lives better. He gave back to the community. He built an entire town of Hershey, Pennsylvania. He wasn't a he wasn't a playboy. He wasn't a someone that just spent his life just with his own self. And I'm not trying to endorse him or anything, or not endorse him. Just saying that the ways of the world, it's $60 million on Hershey bars that ended up making us part of the sickest nation in the history of all nations. It's like, what do you do about that? And I don't know. I honestly don't know what to do about that when it comes to scriptures like this, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of the world, right? I think there's a time that we become a little bit more mature and we stop following the ways of the world. We stop following the ways of the world when it comes to health. We stop that because we recognize that it's just disobedience. It is it's no. I'm not doing that trick anymore. I'm not doing that trick anymore. I have a blessing of avalanche that's upon me if I will just not. I have a spiritual blessing. I'm trying to separate these things right now. I'm not trying to take the spiritual blessing because you can't get away from that. But the I guess there's a couple ways maybe you can. But if you are a believer, it's on you, right? You can be a believer and have diabetes. You can be a believer and have heart disease. You can be a believer and have cancer, right? So it doesn't take away your salvation if you end up with some sort of chronic disease. It doesn't end up, if your A1C is 12, it doesn't take away your salvation. I'm not by any means saying that. That's the spiritual avalanche. As a believer, you don't have any control over. It's on you, right? But there's a health avalanche that I think exists for those people who will take themselves out of the way of the world and get out from underneath the ruler of the air, the ruler of the kingdom of the air, which is Satan. Get out from underneath the tricks of Satan. And we can do it. And what's so inspiring about that Costa Rica, that Blue Zone thing that we're going to talk about tomorrow night is that one of the Blue Zones is in Nicoya, Costa Rica, and it's one of the poorest populations on the planet. And they have one of the highest concentrations of centenarians, people living to be 100 anywhere on earth. And it goes to show you that it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter if you're good looking. It doesn't matter if you're white or Mexican or black or Japanese or whatever, Costa Rican for that matter. It doesn't matter where your mom and daddy came from. It doesn't matter whether or not you got a college education. It doesn't matter all of the excuses. All of the excuses that we use don't matter when it comes to health and wellness, because if it doesn't matter if you're the richest person on earth or if you're the poorest person in Costa Rica, if you put yourself in an environment that's congruent with health, your body expresses health for a long time. For a long time. And that is such it's such a great thing, I think. It's such an awesome thing. And it reminds me of something that I can't say tonight, but maybe I'll say it tomorrow because there was an incident that happened today. Maybe I'll find out some more information about it. That's why I hesitated right there. But we just should we should walk in that blessing and understand it. And if we start with that blessing and then we reverse engineer what we're doing, I think that's something that it's like all of a sudden when we have a symptom, like I sat around and watched those Blue Zone shows all day Saturday, and then I watched um, football all day Saturday, and so I sat in my chair. I didn't get up and move all day Saturday. I just sat down basically the entire day, watching my iPad, taking notes, sitting there in the chair, watching the deal. And right now, like when I went to bed, when I got up on Sunday after staying up till 2:30 in the morning, and I got up on Sunday and I've got a catch right between my shoulder blades, like it's right here in my spine, and it's facets. It's a subluxation. It's a subluxation facets that is stabbing me. Like I can't take a deep breath. It hurts. I couldn't roll over in bed last night. I couldn't like uh, yeah. Getting dressed this morning was miserable. I went to my chiropractor this morning and got adjusted. Actually, it was at right after lunch, and I got adjusted. And I got rock tape all over, all over my back right now. I appreciate the adjustment. But he hits one spot, and it just felt it hurt so bad, like it just felt like a stabbing knife right between my shoulder blades. Now, if I didn't know any better, if I was ignorant to health, and I didn't know any better, I would be freaking out right now about what's going on with my health. I would be freaking out about this pain that's between my shoulder blades. I had to come in between patients today and sit down in my chair and just like try to relax and just relax just a little bit. Try to get my spine in a certain position where it would quit hurting. And as soon as this show's over, I'm done for the day. I'm gonna try. Maybe I'm gonna take a hot shower or a hot bath or something like that. I'm gonna try to get in a position where I can like let my muscles relax. But I'm not gonna take a Tylenol. I didn't even think about taking a Tylenol last night. It didn't cross my mind 1 second that I needed to go to the emergency room. I didn't need to do that. I was because I knew what was happening with my body. I knew what was going on. I knew what the mechanism of injury was. I knew what it's not even injury, the mechanism of physiology was. I knew what caused it, and I knew this, that what I did is I put myself in an environment that was incongruent with health. And my body created a symptom to tell me I was in an environment that was incongruent with health. And that fundamental knowledge comes from this idea that you just reverse engineer when your body is telling you, when your body is giving you a symptom, it's telling you that you have it in an environment that's incongruent with health. It's not telling you that you're broken. It's not telling you, we call it sick, but I'm not sure it's sick. It's just your body is trying to adapt to an environment that it can't adapt to. My body's not supposed to be adapting. Thanks, Mom. I just got a text from my mom. She said, I hope I feel better soon. That's cute right there. Yeah. I got one fan out there listens to the show. Yeah. I'm completely fine, right? I've just had this knife sticking me in my back because my facet joints are fired up because I sat around all day long on Saturday. The human body is not made for that. It's not made to sit around all day long and then stay up till 2 something in the morning watching football games. I didn't get any sleep. I didn't get up and move. I didn't work out. I didn't walk. Most of the days I'm moving every single day, all day long. Like I'm on my feet moving and moving. I'm just impatient. It's like I'm doing something. But this day I just decided to be lazy. And what did I get? I got this pain in my back. And what am I going to do about that? I'm not going to do anything. I got adjusted and I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to try to get those facet joints to unlock. And as soon as they unlock, I'm going to be fine. But I know what the problem is. I'm not fearful. I'm not living in fear. It's not unknown to me. I'm not creating anxiety or depression over it. It's definitely detrimental to my day. A subluxation is detrimental to your day because it changes your point of view. It changes my energy level. It changes my work capacity. That's a big deal. For me, it's a big deal. My work capacity is a big deal. Right? And I think it's fair enough to look at that and say that if we finally get it, if your body's giving you a symptom, analyze it from that perspective. I'll just present it for your consideration. I'll just present for your consideration that a symptom is proper. A symptom is proper. It's the innate intelligence. It's the spirit of the universe that runs our body, inside our body. It's feedback from the spirit of the universe. It's a way of God talking to us. I mean, how awesome is that? this knife that's right between my shoulder blades is a way of God talking to me and say, Jason, it's a nudging. It's an encouragement. It's like, son, I put you on this planet to do your thing. Like, I put you on this planet to shine your light bright into this world. And when you don't do that, you end up with this stabbing pain between your shoulder blades. It'll kind of encourage you not to do that again. Don't do that again. Don't sit around like that all day long in that slouch couch and get yourself all stuck and jacked up. Right? What are you dealing with today? What is the thing that you have today that is a symptom of the Spirit of God Himself inside your body, innate intelligence? What is the symptom that's talking to you that you are ignoring, covering with some sort of medication, deciding to move in a direction away from what's right and fair? What is it that you're doing? Because I know I'm not the only one. I know I live amongst all of us, right? Yes, I do. All right, let's move forward with what we're talking about here. So then he got into grace. And then he got into, in Ephesians 1:5, he started talking about grace. And I really do think I've learned a lot about grace as I've gotten older. I didn't really understand it too much when I was younger. And to be quite honest, Mom sent me a text. Well, to be quite honest, she was the first one that taught me about grace. And it was when her mother passed away. That was the first time I really got to see and understand what that meant. Because she was so strong, and I could not figure out how she was that strong. And I was all torn up because I don't handle those situations very well anyway. But she was so strong, and it was like what was that? And to me, that was my first. Man, I was an adult. I was 19, maybe. I don't know if that, I don't know if I was an adult. Maybe I was 20. But some would argue that whether or not I was an adult. But it was 1:5. He predestined us to be adopted as His sons through Christ Jesus in accordance with His pleasure and will. There was a grace that was brought upon us before we even were. There was a plan for us before time, right? And then in Romans 3:10 and 11, Romans 3:10 and 11. Got two Bibles we're working out of tonight. As it is written, there is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands, no one who seeks God. All have turned away as 12, and they have together become worthless. But there's no one righteous, not even one. So the original thought was, I'm going to have to supply some grace. I'm going to have to choose these kids. I'm going to have to adopt them. And he used the point of adoption yesterday in the sermon as when you adopt a child, you make the choice, not the child. The child doesn't adopt you. You adopt the child. And when you adopt the child, you are making that decision to bring them into your family. And so when he's talking about adoption, we get this whole predestination in 1:5. See where it says adoption. Right there in 4. For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us to be adopted as his sons through Christ Jesus. He predestined us to be adopted. So we were chosen, and then that makes us heirs. That makes us heirs. And we should walk as heirs, as heirs to the kingdom. And I want to play this little clip. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll see. And I apologize to the people at Biography if I do this wrong. I hope you don't get mad at me, but I just want to play this, and I don't know if you guys can hear it, but we'll just try it and see what happens.
No, a dynamite plant he had started in New Jersey when a worker alerted him to a problem with a nitroglycerin experiment.
Mr. DuPont.
Yes?
There's something wrong in the nitrator.
All right, I'm coming.
So what happened was Mr. DuPont,
and he found that
and this family came over
mixture was already beginning to decompose and bubble and boil, and so he pulled the handle that would drop the bottom out of the vessel into a swimming pool-like container,
I don't know if you can hear this on the
and
radio.
ran as fast as he could, and it did go off with such force that the barrier around the machinery moved right over and buried him.
Lamont was only 53 when he died, leaving his wife Mary to care for their 9 children. It was a devastating blow for the DuPont family. When Henry died just 5 years later, there was no one really qualified to take charge. The older partners kept the company going until 1902, when they decided to do the unthinkable. They would sell out to their biggest competitor. 100 years of hard work and sacrifice were on the line when Alfred I. DuPont, a young member of the firm, made a bold announcement.
We will proceed with the sale as soon as it can be arranged. The meeting is adjourned.
Just a moment, sir. I'll buy the company.
You, Alfred?
Yes, I'll bid against Laughlin and Rand.
At the turn of the century, DuPont's directors were on the verge of selling the firm to its biggest competitor when Alfred DuPont announced he would buy the company. It was a noble gesture, but no one really thought he could do it. The Laughlin and Rand Company had already put in a bid of $12 million, and Alfred, who worked in the powder mills, just didn't have that kind of money. Nonetheless, he was determined that the company stay in the hands of the family who founded it.
He was a very ambitious young man, and he also was the eldest son of the founder of the company, E.I. DuPont, and he thought it was sort of his birthright that he should eventually be the head of the company.
The board members considered Alfred far too inexperienced and impulsive to run the company, but they gave him a week to come up with a proposal. Otherwise, they would go through with the sale. That was all the time Alfred needed, for he had a plan. He would recruit other young DuPonts to join him in a buyout. First on the list, his cousin T. Coleman DuPont, a successful businessman living in Kentucky.
So Alfred got on the telephone and he called his cousin Coleman. He said, look, they're going to sell this company, but I think we can buy it. You better come home here and see if we can't cook up a deal. We got a week.
T. Coleman DuPont is, of course, looked up to and admired by everybody. He was a very handsome, dashing fellow with a dark mustache, stood tall. You could imagine him walking off a Kentucky ranch, you know. He would always smile and crack a joke when he could, and he was notorious for that.
Coleman agreed to help on one condition, that he get to be president.
How do you like this for brass? Here's...
Like, the point of that was this young man that was about to lose his family's business, he walked in and he said, no, wait a minute. I am an heir to this thing. And they said, well, wait a minute, we've already got a $12 million offer. And he's like, that's all right. That doesn't intimidate me at all. I know where I belong, and I know where this company belongs, and I know that it should be a DuPont company. And I've got a plan to keep it that way. He had that confidence in himself because he was an heir to the DuPont fortune. He was an heir. That was part of his family's business. When you're an heir, it's part of your family's business, right? Like, it's like when you're an heir to the kingdom of heaven, it's part of your family's business. When you have the kingdom of heaven, when you have the Spirit of God running your body, you're an heir to health. Like, you have it inside of you. There's a depth of confidence that we should walk with when we start to study this whole thing. If we really, really understood that, how could we be so tricked by the cunning and craftiness of men? How can we walk by the Coca-Cola aisle and buy a Coke and put it in our cart and take it home to our kids? There's no way. There's no way that if we really understood it and we were really heirs to the kingdom, that we would keep getting caught up in this stuff. And we would walk with the confidence and we would say, what is it that I'm supposed to eat? How is it that I'm supposed to move? When is it that I'm supposed to sleep? And I would find all those things and I would walk in them with confidence. And that's the avalanche that we're under. Hey, that's the end of the show. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And we'll be back tomorrow night. We're going to talk about those blue zones. So